the Gold Coast Pro and having to do that for 3 years in a row, which was very exciting.
How's Burleigh Board Riders? When did you join Burleigh?
I think I joined Burleigh around 16 years old. I remember I started at M&M Board Riders when I was 15.
Is there anywhere you'd shoot in the world, like that's just on your bucket list? Where would you like to shoot?
It's funny you say that because there's a few locations, and to be able to shoot, I think I really want to get over to Ireland. Yeah, this is crazy.
Oh, that's cold. I'm cold thinking about it. You've worked with some incredible surfers we've mentioned already. What's the key to capturing the perfect surf shot? Welcome to the Green Room, your backstage pass to the world of surfing. I'm your host, surf MC and commentator Terry Tappa, diving into epic wins, crushing fails and wild stories with surfing's biggest names. So wax up, paddle out and join us in the Green Room, where the surf chat never goes flat. Today's guest is one of those to watch this space moments. Shannon Hayes is an up-and-coming photographer and videographer. 2 years ago, Murmur Mag had this to say about her. A 22-year-old female surf videographer, passionate about pushing and growing female surfing. She is one of the only females in the world challenging the men to be one of the best surf videographers in history. Well, I've known Shannon since she approached me to be the subject of her grade 11 video project at Varsity College, 16 years of age with braces, and she topped her class. A big effort seeing the material she had to work with, but now from being a young Burleigh board rider who could hold her own in the surf, she's now 24 years of age and has been travelling the world, filming the top pros, even on camera for the WSL. Last year, she released her debut movie, 22, featuring Annie DeSantos, and has much more literally in the pipeline. Welcome to the Green Room, Shannon Hayes.
Thank you, Tappa. That was an epic introduction.
No, as well. You're pretty epic, I reckon. Now, you've lived most of your life on the Gold Coast, but where were you born and how was it growing up?
I was born in Bali, in Denpasar Hospital, because my mum and dad met in Indonesia there. But I moved to Australia when I was 2 years old, to the Gold Coast. And we were based up in Broadbeach area for most of my upbringing. I went to Broadbeach State School and then followed to Varsity College and, just growing up here on the Gold Coast.
Well, that's, and your dad was a surf guide, eh?
Yeah, he, around the time he met my mum, he was travelling through Indonesia as a surf guide in the Mentawais back in the 90s.
Wow, that's pretty early.
Yeah, he was doing that through the 90s around there, as well as he was traveling and exporting boards from Australia to Japan. So between Japan and Indonesia, that was like his two bases for a good 10 years before he met my mum. And that was like 2000 that my mum was 25 and my dad was in his 30s, and they met there.
And they made beautiful, Shannon.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, when did you start surfing? Do you remember your first wave?
I started surfing when I was 10 years old. That was at a surf school in Broadbeach. Yeah, it was something Dad got me into, but I didn't fully pursue it and get into it until I was 14 years old. Yeah. Oh,
right. So now, as a Grom girl growing up around Burleigh, what did you want to do with your surfing? Like, I know you were in Burleigh Board Riders, but what was your aim with surfing? It was just to have fun?
Yeah, it was definitely to have fun. And when I started getting really passionate about surfing, I would go with my friends before school. We were based in Varsity Lakes. I lived right on Christine Ave too. A few of my friends that lived just like in the same neighbourhood would ride at dark before school down Christine Ave all the way to Burleigh Heads, and I would follow them. So we'd be riding pitch black 4 a.m, get to the headland by sunrise, paddle out, come in, and it felt like we had the biggest morning before everyone even got ready for their work and school routines. So I'd pretty much get to school a little bit late, but I would just get there and then rest. I'd pretty much fall asleep in the first class because I was so tired, but that was my routine several days a week.
Yeah. When I went to school at Marymount, I used to because I'd ride my bike because you could get extra time, in the surf.
Yeah.
And I'd turn up late, and so I used to put grease on my hands off the chain and going, oh, my chain came off. And then after doing this multiple times, the principal goes, Mr. Tace, if you don't find a more reliable Murpho's transport, you're going on the bus. And I was like, so then I thought, oh, that one's gone. But, you know, what you do to get a surf. So how's Burleigh Board Riders? When did you join Burleigh?
I think I joined Burleigh around 16 years old. So I remember I started at M&M Board Riders when I was 15. My friend Lucy Littlechild, she was in amongst that, and I really enjoyed that club. But I found I was surfing North Burleigh like all the time and Burleigh Point. So I saw the girls that were starting up that following year at Burleigh Board Riders, and I was like thinking I want to be a part of that. That just looks like the most epic community of surfers, and I really wanted to push myself surfing Burleigh when it got bigger and just being really in amongst that community.
So you always wanted to take it on with a little bit more size when it was pumping, hey?
Yeah, I thought that was really cool to just paddle out when it was, for me at 16, 17, if it looked overhead, so it was just like solid and scary, and you'd have to jump off Tally Creek just to get out the back if you get lucky when the sweep doesn't take you all the way through. And that challenge was really fun, just being one of the few girls out there doing that too at the time.
Yeah, you went pretty good. I remember you when you were young there. You went pretty good. But now let's go to photography. When did you get your first camera you owned, or when did you start seeing photography, or was it at school when you sort of got onto that?
Photography started around the same time. Dad gave me a camera right before we went to New Zealand, and I was loving taking photos with my phone at the time, like 16 years old. But the trip in New Zealand was where everything looked so new and beautiful and like luscious and green, and I was just taking photos of everything and realizing why was my shot so blown out and white, and why were other shots really dark?
At that age you were looking at that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I accidentally had my camera settings in manual. Yeah. So all these shots were just coming out either good, bad, terrible, or something came out really nice. And I just fell in love with the whole question of how can I make these all my own way. Yeah.
Do you remember the first really good surf shot you took, and how do you feel about that?
I took a really good shot at Burleigh Heads actually when I was about 17. It was after coming in from a surf, and the way I got to play with the colours of the water and everything was just really fun. Shooting my friend's portraiture as well was something I loved to do, but I never dove too much into surf photography. I actually went straight to surf videography, and that's where I fell in love with following the athletes and capturing the overall feeling throughout that session, just with my friends that were surfing around 19 years old.
That's pretty cool. Now, there's not many female surf photographers, videographers out there. What challenges have you found breaking into that space?
At the start, it was all fun, so I was just capturing my friends that surfed. But if there were little questions, you can't really find them on YouTube, how to shoot surfing and how to get your foot in the door with meeting the really good surfers. So I would reach out to some of the local surf videographers that were guys, but I'd get ghosted a few times at the start, even when I was just very excited and just saying I really want to work under you in some way and just learn. But I'm learning now that it's an industry that's very solo, much like surfing too.
Yeah.
And the guys will give you tips and tricks, and if you have any questions they'll explain it the best they can, but it's kind of like a cool solo journey you take, and everyone's pathway can be so different because it's also the friends you make and the things that pop up change all the time, but that's the exciting part, I guess.
Anybody that really inspired you, a photographer that inspired you?
Yeah, one of the main ones would have to be Dan Scott.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think it's just because I saw his progression from when I was 16, 17 years old, and he also lived in the same suburb as me, traveling with some of the local Gold Coast surfers, but his growth over 5 years was something that I was watching and just seeing like, wow, if I continue at it, my growth over 5-10 years time can just be like on a similar trajectory.
Well, I noticed like you always, started doing the land, but lately, well, over the last few years lately, you've been getting into swimming. Now,
Yes.
how was that the learning curve with swimming?
Swimming was something that came a little bit more naturally because I love to surf and I was comfortable in the big waves. So I bought all the right gear with a housing from Salty Surf and good flippers that wouldn't give you any cramps. And I just started with the little beach breaks here on the Gold Coast as well as D-Bar and some of the point breaks. But over time I wanted to push myself in bigger surf, and that's where I fell in love with the idea that there's not too many girls getting in the water capturing surfing when it's like big, shooting video as well.
It's a pretty big physical effort too, isn't it?
Yeah.
When it's big.
I actually love it because I feel like I'm in the surf, like surfing as well.
Yeah.
Like I'm in amongst it, and when someone gets barreled or does a sick turn in front of me and I've got the shot, I'm equally excited as them, like surfing.
Yeah.
So we get to share this more hands-on rather than like being 100 meters down the beach,
Yeah.
sweating in the sun.
yeah, because
Yeah.
it's a lot more exciting. Must
Yeah.
be like at the end, when you come in, you must be kind of exhilarated too because of all the physical activity and the oxygen in your body. It must sort of give you a little bit of a kind of high nearly.
Yeah, exactly. Like I fell in love with swimming because you're just getting all the sunlight and you're in the ocean, your hair gets blonder, and like there's just so many benefits. You're feeling fit and strong. You've just got unique shots that everyone on land hasn't captured too, and being on the Gold Coast there can be 20 filmers on land getting the same angle of the same surfer, but only one filmer in one spot if it links up with a surfer swimming. So the pros and cons with me being able to swim, if I'm working with an athlete, it's unlikely they're going to want that type of footage. But if I'm just shooting as part of a project and they want a water angle, that's when I can step in and do that. Or it's something I'd do in my free time as like a passion thing, and I can off-sell those clips to brands down the line.
Oh, that's cool. Now, when you're swimming, do you have any fears or have any crazy things happened when you've been in the water?
Fears. I mean, of course, when I'm swimming, I feel like I think about sharks a little bit more
you do
than
that
I
when
would.
you surf, I suppose.
Yeah, and then there's a part of you where you're about this much below water, you can't see anything, so you feel a little bit more vulnerable. But other than that, I think it's just getting the fitness and understanding what waves you're at so you don't get yourself in a bad situation. So I'm always reading. If it's a new place I'm going to, I'd read and watch the ocean for
So
a
you'd
while.
sit there for a while and see where the currents are going and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I'd talk to a few people. I'd talk to a lot more people if it's like a known spot that can have problems with swimming. But I mean, yeah, I think just because I swam Hawaii and out at Pipe recently, that's where I'd talk to a lot of different photographers each time I go out just to see what their thoughts were and make sure I'm making a good decision.
Right now, you have swum with your camera at Pipeline. Wow, to me that's a pretty hectic thing to do. Like for the surfers, there's a pecking order in the lineup. Is there like a pecking order for water photographers in the lineup? And how does a young girl from the Gold Coast get into that pecking order?
That's a good one. Well, last winter I spent 3 months there with Moana Jones. I was shooting her over that stint.
Wow.
And that was very exciting. It was also the year she won the Vans Pipe Masters. So that was her second big win at her home break in her career. So I filmed her for about 3 months there, watching Pipeline from land many hours throughout every day when it was good. And a lot of those days weren't completely safe to swim based on the direction. So there would still be some, I want to say, west peaks, or what's the incorrect? They want a straight west swell,
Yep.
about 110 degrees. and that's when swimming is really safe. So maybe there was a bit of north actually in it that would make it not so safe last winter.
So what do you mean by not safe? Does that mean there's water moving and dragging you into the impact zone sort of thing, or stuff like that?
It means like there will be the odd north set coming through that would clean out where all the photogs would sit.
Yeah.
And yeah, every now and then you can deal with currents that can push you into the peak or away from the peak. But those north peaks you just don't want to get in the wrong spot for.
Well, I know I went it off the wall. I wouldn't go anywhere near pipe, too crowded and a bit out of my league anyway. But like, I got caught inside and I just got washed straight to the beach. There was I had my board and it was just like, you're in on the beach, and I'm going, oh, well, I'll have to paddle out again. Is that what happens when you get work there? You're sort of into shore?
I've been lucky to not get worked because we were in like a safe little spot on the shoulder of the wave.
Yeah.
And a few photographers that have been worked on that shoulder have had their cameras blown out or just getting so tired and rattled that they just want to swim straight in. But we have like a little spot that you line yourself up with when you see the trees, and there is a little pecking order going back to that answer. Yeah. It's like when I was there last winter, I got to meet a few of the photographers, but didn't do any swimming until right at the end. I swam a day where no one was really swimming, just to get a feeling of the lineup. So the following winter, my first swim out, which was this winter that just finished, I got to meet 3 or 4 of the main photographers that I've known, and they're quite big in the lineup. They were all saying hello to me as I was swimming out. So that was cool. Really cool. Yeah.
And so you got your little spot now.
Yeah.
You back next year?
Yeah, I'd hope so. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool that you have been accepted in there. Now, like we can't possibly talk without talking about Annie DeSantos. Now, how did you two meet up?
We met. We had a few encounters through all the surf comps that I was following back in 2022 and 2023. So I was about 21 years old when I was following all the QS comps from Gold Coast down to Sydney. And there was a female surf competition that was running. Annie was one of the guest speakers. This was down in Central Coast.
Yeah.
Annie and I were talking in the surf before the festival started, and she just surfed shippies at that point. So she'd put out all her clips of just going on this bomb out at shippies with Timber Nathan following, like capturing her on that trip. I was thinking, wow, this chick is so rad. And she would be
cray.
She's crazy. She would be someone I want to travel with, and she seems like the biggest go-getter. And so those were my initial thoughts. And we got chatting, threw in a couple ideas, and started with a road trip down south of Sydney, just, following waves and starting to shoot surfing.
And then, of course, you released a short film last year. Was it last year you released it, 24?
About 2 years ago now.
About 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's called 22. Of course, you and Annie both the same age.
Yeah.
So 22. And how was the journey making that? Because I've watched it. It's a 10-minute beautiful short film, but it seems like you had like a girl's own adventure.
Yeah. That was like the best time. We were coming off a Sydney trip, and Indo, there was a few QS comps in Indo for Annie. She was heading over, and I was with her in Sydney at the time just thinking, should I just come with you? That would be so fun. And we pitched it to O'Neill, and they helped bring me over, and we did some content for O'Neill at the time. And I actually extended my flights. Instead of it being a 2-week trip, there was a reason for Annie to stay on longer, and I had no commitments at home, so we just decided if we stayed a bit longer, we could make a bigger surf film out of it. It's a portfolio piece for me and her, and we just have a fun time. And so I got into talking to all the resorts in the area, seeing what could happen last minute, and lined up 2 resorts, a surf chartered boat trip with Annie and a sailboat riding us from Telos to the Mentawais during that whole surf film. So we just had the time of our life.
That's sick. That's
in 2 months.
You're a real little organiser, aren't you? You seem to like you get it all put together. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, she is one cray charger. How is it working with Annie, like getting in there close? And it must be pretty spectacular just filming it, just being there.
It was great because she told me towards the end of the trip that watching all the footage and getting all that time around barreling lefts and rights, she was able to better her skills on backside barrel riding as well because she's a goofy footer.
Yeah.
And her surfing, she said she felt like that improved because she was able to watch it hands-on. But together, it was just great seeing her wanting to send it when Nias was bigger than 6 foot, and watching her grow as well as using all my skills and like just perfecting it more and more each time we were on that trip.
Getting bogged on motorbikes and
Getting
stuff.
bogged, yeah. Yeah, we went on big surf hunts when the waves were flat, and we were in a part of Nias that wasn't very touristy, so we were just going off-road, popping out at every little bay, seeing, is this a potential wave? And it was just the funnest thing, exploring and stopping with all the local communities and having a chat and playing around, practicing.
One of my favourite shots is when you've got those 2 little girls at the hut and they're dancing and going on. That was just so cute.
That one's a cute shot.
Yeah.
I loved it. Just they were all so happy and the most beautiful people. There's so many parts of the world like that, especially the same in the Pacific too. And yeah, just so many parts around the world. But yeah, it was a great time.
Oh, it looked like it, I tell you. Now, what other pro surfers have you worked with?
I did that winter with Moana.
Yeah, which is
and
pretty cool.
That was amazing. Prior to that, I was able to shoot with Dimity Stoyle, someone I've been working with, in the previous years quite frequently around Snapper and the QS comps in Australia. And she introduced me to Nikki Van Dyke and Coco Ho.
Oh, cool. There's a couple of ledges.
Yeah, that was such a good time to be able to capture those girls. I did a little trip down to Yamba with Coco and Frankie Hara for about a week, and we were just shooting, and they were having like a good time exploring with Frankie's little family.
Oh, I love Yamba because that's where my mum and dad come from down there. It's a beautiful place, and the background is amazing. Everything's amazing down there.
It's beautiful. Actually, also I've worked with Patcha Light and Lillian Young, who are 2 girls from that area too.
Yeah, they rip. Yeah, actually, Lily's back. She's back in town. Young Lillian Young. Now, all the men who are on tour have a dedicated filmer that follows them around capturing everything. Do any of the women have those filmers that say not mum, dad, or their partner?
I can't think of too many women. Not really. If I think Katie Simmers seems to have filmers capturing her along the way, but it's not really a dedicated filmer that I know of.
It really needs to be done, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And getting you to do it.
That would be amazing. I'm trying to navigate that world. I nearly had something really cool happen earlier this year, and it was just unfortunate with the athlete and sponsorships lining up, it didn't. But I feel like when the timing's right, there should be a shift where women are getting more financial support to have that full-time content creator on the road with them.
Well, it seems it has to. It seems that your generation, your age group are the ones that they're busting down the doors everywhere, like aerial manoeuvres and the level of surfing, like all the girls in their early 20s like yourself. And so you're on that trajectory with them. That must be pretty cool.
It's so exciting. Like last winter, watching Betty Lou and a bunch of girls just sending it at Pipe, it was like such a game-changing competition for women surfing that followed with many more comps later that year. Just seeing Katie Simmers, Molly Picklum really pushing the bar with Erin Brooks as well. I'm just like really stoked to be a part of this generation and a closer age to these girls too, where as I'm building my skills and they're growing older and maybe more financial backings coming into the situation, we can make epic films together.
Now, Shannon, you're also not only just doing your own stuff, you do a bit of work with the WSL. How did you transition, or how did you get into getting behind the camera for the WSL?
So it kind of started when I was following the QS events back in 2022, and I was working for Fresh Air Broadcast along all those for live streaming.
Yep.
So that kind of lifestyle was you start at sunrise and you finish at sunset over a 2-week window.
Yep.
And with that, I was able to meet the right people, which led to doing the CS comps, the Challenger Series.
Yep.
And yeah, it was just getting my foot in the door with that experience, which led to the Gold Coast Pro and having to do that for 3 years in a row, which was very exciting.
Oh, that's cool. So, but it's less creative, more concentrated maybe.
That's true. Yeah, so I guess you're watching every wave and you're just panning from left to right, listening to a producer in your ear versus watching the surf and being able to edit that footage later on that day with your creative flair.
Now, I know you do a bit of drone work as well.
Yes.
Now,
yeah.
of course, I know the answer already is swimming, but do you like mixing up what you do, like the land, the swimming and the drone?
Yeah, absolutely. I love flying the drone and getting different movements to capture and showcase the location, as well as I love capturing bird's eye, which is straight down and following the surfers from that angle, which is quite unique. You probably noticed in 22 there was a few drone shots there. That's just like mind-blowing.
Drone shots.
Yeah, that's so fun, just being able to show that side as well as the swimming. It all ties in together beautifully.
And that's basically you put it all together. Now, you've worked with some incredible surfers we've mentioned already. What's the key to capturing the perfect surf shot?
It depends what you're going for, but I think lighting, the natural lighting of the day is one of the key elements where you want the sun on the surfer preferred more than behind the surfer, but then there's like taste of preference if you want. Like in the mornings here on the East Coast, you get a really harsh glare behind the wave and the surfer becomes a silhouette. So sometimes it's nicer for it to be midday onto the afternoon where the sun's above the surfer or in front as it's setting and the surfer gets to have a glowing colour about them. So that, as well as epic waves and glassy conditions, are a key factor.
Well, I do know this lady knows light. She did some, for my trivia, she did some shots, some, normal photo shots. She said to me, she goes, just wait a sec, we just got to wait a sec. Now stand over there. And there's a wall at the PAV. And she knew that the reflection of the sun off the building onto that wall at the PAV had the light. Now, where did you get all that from? How did you know that?
That is a little bit of my studio background photography side, where I spent a few years working for a media agency and they had a studio in Burleigh Heads here. And from about 19 to 22, I was working with them. So I had just an eye for using natural light and combining it with studio lighting just in my everyday settings. So I saw that reflection and I thought it's going to bounce on your face nicely, and it did. So it worked well.
And your camera still worked after it was done. Amazing. Yeah. But that's a very all-rounded sort of career. You've got all the things you've done. It's sort of like, they say it takes lots of ingredients to make a nice pie. Well, you've got a lot of things in there. Now, is there anywhere you'd shoot in the world, like that's just on your bucket list? Where would you like to shoot somewhere, like either water or land? Probably water's probably your thing you like now at the moment, it seems.
It's funny you say that because there's a few locations, and to be able to shoot, I think I really want to get over to Ireland.
Ireland?
Yeah, this is crazy.
Oh, that's cold. I'm cold thinking about it.
I know, because Ireland and all the crazy waves and slabs they get during the winter time is something that I want to tap into. That's just so far out of reach for Australia. Like, it's just so extremely the other direction. Cold water is totally opposite to all the travel I've been doing recently.
Yeah, or tropics.
Yeah. And if you think about really pushing yourself, jumping in like the most freezing water in a 4-3 head and booties.
Yeah.
slabbing waves. Maybe like a jet ski would be nice to assist. But now I'm just getting picky.
No, but that's all right because
Yeah.
there is a burly board rider over there in Ireland, Noah Lane.
Oh, wow.
He's one of the big chargers. He got injured recently, but he'll be back. He's but there's someone you can look up when you're over there, being a burly girl.
Absolutely.
But do you think you see a bit of a shift with more women getting into surf photography? Do you see any other younger girls than you having a crack?
Oh, I've seen, like, especially going to Hawaii this year, I'm just noticing more and more girls behind a camera on land, and actually quite a few swimming in the water too. I feel like photography in the surfing world's been around for a while for women swimming, but not so much the videography.
Yeah.
So there's been a transition now that videography is becoming more popular and important as well, where people are seeing that they need to come out with consistent short form videos. So there's like women jumping on from photography to videography and dabbling in a few more things like getting in the water or linking up with, I feel like they're like linking up with more female surfers here and there, but nothing that I've seen is no particular girls are diving into it consistently in the videography side like myself around. Like I haven't seen too many, but when I do meet a couple that do it, I'm very excited.
Cool. And now you said the short form film format, sorry.
Yeah.
Now with that, back when I was a grom, the movies were like hour and a bit. Now, what's 10 minutes or 10 to 15 is probably what you aim for with a surf movie now?
Yeah, I think so, where half an hour is like something you'd have premieres probably.
Yeah.
Between 10 and 30 minutes, you'd want to do some premieres. And if you're talking an hour, that's some big production stuff most of the time.
Yeah, like Tim Benoithen sort of stuff.
Yeah, and even Spencer Frost, he did that film Kamchatka in Russia, which was a huge project that was epic to see. But everything's just going onto YouTube nowadays, and that's generally around the 20-minute mark.
Max,
Yeah.
Is it the young generation can't concentrate for more than 10 minutes?
Yeah, we have TikTok, Instagram.
Yeah.
They're like 10-second just video bombarding. I don't know, it's just all fast-paced and there's so much to see that our attention span's gotten way shorter.
Well, I find that too. Even now, like I saw Lobby's latest video, which was like crazy good. It was amazing. And and that was, I think that was 19 minutes or something, and it seemed long. I must be getting used to it myself. But
yes.
But like there's so many different, like, do you look at now when you do it, you look at like different ways and different angles you can sort of make your shots just a little bit different to people?
I think that's important, all the different angles. And when I want to make a longer form edit, there's a new trend for like how you're filming and moving the camera for every shot versus the transitions you're using. Not so much in the water, but say if you're doing all the cinematic lifestyle shots to tell the story, you can add sound design and transition movements that really like lift up and give a cinematic feeling to it. But I think a lot of it should be storytelling. That's what breaks every surf film apart, because you have videos that can be like surf porn where it's surfing, music, and a bit of like fun shots where they're waxing up. Very fast paced. Yeah. Or you can have like a little story combined with maybe some skits and things that people might remember in amongst all the surf action.
Oh, that's cool. Now, if you could shoot any surfer, past or present, that you haven't done already, who would that be?
I think there's a few girls that I would really love to link up with, and some of them would be like linking up with Coco Ho again.
Yeah.
Eve Wong, she's a Hawaiian surfer that's really beautifully stylish. And some of the local girls like Macy and Steph would be epic, and Nikki as well. But like a really core surfer that I would love to shoot, I'd have to think about that one. Yeah, there's just so many.
But I suppose other people come up out of nowhere too. Well, they're not coming out of nowhere, but all of a sudden they're there, and it's like, wow, I'd love to shoot that person. By doing the contest, you see some of those, like, some of the young girls coming up, you must be amazed with, like, like even
Absolutely.
in our club, you got Charlie, Isla, Mia, and then there's Miller Brown and all those girls.
Yeah.
They're just like, they're setting a new level.
They are. They really are. And like Katie Simmers would have to be on that list that I'd love to shoot one day. But it's epic seeing all the girls up and coming through Burleigh board riders, and I really want to watch them because they're that next generation. So it's really powerful what they're doing for all the girls younger than them and around them.
Yeah, it must be, because there was a fair few girls when you were in the club, but there's even more now. It's like the girl gang, I call it, the Burleigh Board Riders girl gang.
That's so cool. I love it.
I know, and it's great to see. And I think, like, from when I was like, I've been commentating events for like 30 years or something, and it used to be the girls would come on, they put them in the crap surf, and half the beach is like. Now everybody wants to watch the girls. It's so cool, isn't it?
It's so cool. I watched the ABB last year, and the girls were just charging. I think it was Isla Huppets or her sister.
Oh, Isla did the big crack.
Yeah, the big crack. And I was like, whoa, that was like a man turn. And we're still saying that, which I know is like man turn instead of a woman turn. But when you're seeing that and you're like having to double take, thinking, whoa, she's so young to be surfing that good. I can't wait to see where she's growing. Yeah,
and it's great to see all the young ladies. Now, where do you see your photographic or videography career going in the future? Got any big projects coming up?
There's a current project I'm working on. I'm in the post-production phase with Annie DeSantos. It'll be like a part 2 from that 22 film. Yeah. It's a little different spin-off, but just another passion project we're putting together where we were on a sailboat through the Pacific, we ended up surfing all these uncrowded waves that were very remote islands. So we're putting together a longer film than 10 minutes. Yeah. And it's a little breakdown of who we are as well as what the trip had, and her getting absolutely barreled on her forehand and I'm swimming in the water for it. So
oh, that's cool. Now, Shannon, do you get to put the camera down and pick up the surfboard sometimes on these trips?
I do, actually. Yeah? That particular trip, no. I didn't. But a recent trip I did to Fiji, I was working with some of the guests on Tappa Island, and the other half of that trip I was able to surf nonstop. So that was epic.
Oh, wow. At Fiji, where everybody's paying heaps of money, you're getting paid and you're going surfing.
Yeah, that was such a time. I was on an extreme high there. It was epic.
So take that girl that was 16. When you were 16, would you think that what you're doing now, like only 8 years later?
Yeah.
How does that feel?
When you say only 8 years, that's
8 years is a lot at your age. It's a third of your life.
Yeah. But no, I think that's really cool in that short time frame. Yeah. Especially because I picked it up at 19, more so when it was like 20 years old when COVID hit. Yeah. I lost my hours in retail and just had all this free time to use my camera and shoot all the girls surfing. So Isabel Nichols wasn't on tour because we're all in shutdown. All her friends like Ellie Brooks and my friends Lucy Callister, I was just shooting them surf constantly. So to think from 20 to 24, that 4 years of growth has been crazy.
That's amazing, because I talked to Serena Brooke and Serena, I said, what? And she said she was working in retail at the surf shop, and he's going, and she's going, is that all this is? That's it. I'm going to be a pro surfer. So you had your retail moment too, and like now, you wouldn't swap it for quids, would you?
No, I absolutely wouldn't. And, through all the ups and downs in this type of career that I'm still navigating, I feel like it's something every part of me wants to stick it out and watch what people older than me, how they're successful and what they've done, and blending it with my experiences to create my own pathway. Because, this is a very unique pathway, I guess.
It is very unique, but it's a damn fine little lifestyle. Like, I know it's not Like, it's not all easy. I'm sure that there are harder parts of doing this. Is there like the travel? Like I love surfing places, but I hate traveling. I don't know. Yeah, as in like being on planes and stuff.
The planes, I'm pretty like okay with that side of things, but it's the luggage because.
How much luggage? Actually,
my
how much
goodness.
stuff do you have to carry? And do you have excess baggage with all your stuff?
Always. So the luggage is the hardest part. I'll never be able to travel light if I want to do both. Like I'm bringing a surfboard and inside I'm stuffing clothes and towels so it's padded. And I'm bringing 40 kilos of checked-in baggage. So Jetstar, I shouldn't be flying with Jetstar anymore because they get you for every kilo. But usually it's a 40-kilo check-in, 2 oversized bags, a 14 kg carry-on bag with all my camera gear, and I'm trying to find ways I can make it look lighter than it really is. But yeah, I'm traveling with a lot.
How do you lug that around day to day?
Well, I have a car, luckily.
No, but I mean, when you get to the airport, it's like, oh, we need an Uber for Shannon's gear.
Yeah. Man, I feel like it's hard to not look like a sweaty backpacker when I'm traveling. So it's not like the most pretty, like, walk through the airport. I've got this huge camera bag on my back and maybe like tight shoulders every trip. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I love it. And extra hands help, but I'm definitely capable of holding it all myself. And yeah, that's how it should be.
Yeah, well, yeah. What's one piece of advice you give to, say, a young girl who's watching or listening to this and they're thinking, wow, I'd like to do that? What sort of advice or any piece of advice you'd give to a young girl that was thinking of doing this?
I think the best advice is to get really clear on what's like a particular thing you want to try and go down, and just ask around, ask a lot of questions and do a lot of research and just be really curious, because that was something that I've always been since I was young, is curious and asking people how things work, or just asking myself, like, how can I make this happen, and being really open and hungry to have things happen. So like asking myself, how can I shoot surfers when there are no surfers around because they're doing all the competitions from Gold Coast to Sydney?
Yep.
That would be a time of year where there was nothing really happening on the Gold Coast. The waves slowed down. How can I meet and network in this industry? And I just jumped in my car and followed all those comps, asking who's the right person to talk to work on these events, or who are some surfers that I can just shoot for free and build my skill set. So there's that element, as well as just putting in the time and not giving up on yourself.
That's really cool. I like that. You seem to have thought a lot about this. You must do a bit of thinking yourself, just like how I can do all this. It's like,
Yeah, no, I think my mind actively thinks of like new ways to approach things, and that also opens up a lot of opportunities too.
What about seeing you travel with 20 tonne of luggage? Any travel tips you'd like to give out there to anybody who's travelling with a bit of gear?
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to be on carry-on, but yeah, there's preferably what I've learned is not to fly too much with Jetstar. And like look
Sponsored by Jetstar.
Yeah. As well as if you can fly with mates and they're open to like dispersing your gear, that's great. But when you're flying solo, having air tags as well for all your checked-in luggage helps.
Yeah, that's a very good thing. I've done that with my boards, and I got my boards.
Yeah, so back. Now I have 4 air tags for all the 4 bags that I take in.
Oh, you just got it because you got to know where they are. Well, you know the one that gets me though, because I've got air tags because I didn't get my boards once for 5 days when I was on a surf trip.
Yeah.
So I got air tags, and I'm sitting there in the plane, and my air tag's still over there, and I harassed, and my boards got in the plane.
That's good.
So
yeah,
watch out for Brisbane. Brisbane's not the spot to That's where, yeah, but that's a good idea, those AirTag things.
I have another tip as well.
Yeah?
So my friend taught me this only a month ago, but if you're trying to sneak extra kilos into your luggage, you can have a tote bag off to the side that when they're weighing everything up, it's something that you feel comfortable with throwing into your surfboard bag, so like extra clothes or towels in that tote bag. But when you weigh the surfboard bag, it's like, say, 3 kilos. Then as you're walking to the oversized baggage area, you stuff it in an extra 2 kilos, and then they take it on. They don't weigh it during that process. So my friend taught me that trick, and it saved me on my trip to Hawaii.
Oh, well, that's pretty good, yeah. And of all the places that you've shot and swam, where is your favourite?
Definitely Pipeline. Yeah, it's pretty cliche, but it's such a beautiful barrel, and maybe not too cliche. It's just very iconic as well.
Yeah. And you showed me the other day on your phone that shot you got of John. That is one of the most beautiful crystal shots. You must have been that excited you must have been that excited to get in and look at it as well.
Yeah, that was just insane. I had Eric Knutson next to me capture the same wave. He showed me how it looked on his camera, and I was like, wow. And then I saw my shot, and I was thinking, wow, that's similar. And I was a little deeper on the inside and just absolutely frothing. It felt like I got a moment from View from a Blue Moon of John myself, which was always like one of my favorite surf films as well, watching how advanced that style of surf filming is, and something that's becoming more and more common. Like, do you know Noah Beshin?
Yeah.
His film at Andy Woodward, they've come out with some great surf edits recently, and that whole look and cinematic feeling is the type that I love, as well as Torrin Martin with Ishka. So when I see shots that look similar and like from View from a Blue Moon, I just get so excited.
That's cool. Yeah. Ireland, Hawaii. Where else you been? Like the Pacific. You've been everywhere, Shan. It's pretty cool. And you're only 24, and like to have a magazine in Hawaii call you one of the best up and coming photographers, not just women, but photographers. That's pretty cool. It's been a pleasure to have you on the Green Room, Shan. Love your work. Well done.
Thank you, Tappa. Cheers. Thanks, Taps.
No worries. Thanks for tuning into the Green Room. A big thank you to our guests for sharing their stories and insights, our producer Sarah, and Podfire for bringing this podcast to life. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a review, and share the Green Room with your friends. We'll catch you next time for more conversations with the legends of surf and beyond. Until then, catch you in the waves.